a true story from Korea about someone who can see spirits. When I first heard this story, honestly, my first thought was, could such a thing really happen? But strangely, every single scene remained vividly clear in my mind. The location was a mountain village somewhere in Yanbian, China. Houses stood dotted far apart, connected by a single dirt path. A place where, once the sun went down, the whole village was swallowed by darkness. It seems the air in that village changed after a heavy downpour of rain. An indescribable heaviness had spread over the ground of the village, and the people there were stiffening their faces for no reason. The villagers begged my grandfather for help. Please save us. Ever since the rain, sinister things have been happening. We don't know what it is. My grandfather arrived at the village at dusk, and I, or, to be precise, the brother who told me this story, was left at a relative's house. It was the countryside, so there was no TV, and all there was to do was go outside and play with the other children. That day, the children had gathered in an alleyway to play soccer. Dirt was stuck to the tops of their feet, and the scent of sweat mixed with the smell of damp soil. It was a day where the cold, humid air, typical of the time after a rain, clung to your skin. That was when it happened. I don't know who noticed first, but one of the kids pointed toward a house. And there, at the end of the alley, in the shadow of a wall, stood a girl wearing a red dress. At first, I couldn't see her face clearly. Only the red pierced my eyes. It was a color that stood out strangely in the darkness, looking as if only that part of the scene was truly alive. The other children were pulled toward her with strange, effortless ease. Who is that? Was there a girl like that in our village? Those words flew out, and everyone was laughing. But the brother was the only one who felt something was wrong. His feet wouldn't move. It wasn't that someone was grabbing him. It was just a feeling that his body wouldn't listen to him. It wasn't a conscious, don't go, but a visceral sense of I cannot go. And in that moment, he saw the girl's face clearly. The pupils were definitely there, but those black pupils weren't just black. They were hollow, as if they had swallowed all the light. The area around her eyes was dirty and dark, like soot, and only the corners of her smiling mouth were curled up thin. Her clothes were definitely red, but one side was unnaturally dark, while the other side was mottled, as if the color had faded. That red. It wasn't the red of something new, but the color of cloth that had been wet and dried over and over again for a long time. The strange thing was that the other children called her cute. She was wearing a white dress and had a bob cut, wasn't she? They had all seen the same thing, but it was as if they had looked at completely different beings. Since that day, the village crumbled at an even faster pace. It is said that one young man suddenly sat bolt upright while sleeping, walked outside, collapsed by the side of the road clutching his chest, and never regained consciousness. The livestock would cry out for no reason, only to suddenly fall completely silent, and the villagers found it hard to even step outside their homes. My grandfather had talismans placed on every house. He told them never to let the children go outside and to place talismans on the doorframes as well. Even so, the events did not stop. One day, he saw his friend kicking a soccer ball alone in the alleyway. The strange thing was that the ball came rolling toward him without anyone seemingly having kicked it. It was as if someone invisible was playing along from deep within the alley. The moment he tried to approach, that sensation came again. His body froze, his breath caught in his throat, and a bad premonition crawled down his spine. And then, something lunged out. To be precise, it looked like a human figure. But up close, the outline looked somehow wrong, and it felt as if only the face was floating. It looked as if it was smiling, and it felt like it was rushing toward him all at once. He ran. It wasn't so much that he ran of his own volition. It was as if his body had reacted on its own. Even after he got inside and covered himself with his quilt, his heart kept pounding, and his body was shaking uncontrollably. When his grandfather returned, he said through tears, "I can't find my friend. In the alley, I felt a strange presence." His grandfather rushed to that alley, And, at the end of the alley, there was someone lying there, motionless. That night, my grandfather was searching for the path where the mountain's chi energy was leaking out. And he dug up a patch of ground that had been exposed by the rain. He said it was like a drainage ditch. What came out of it was a human corpse. It looked like a dried-up mummy. It was the body of a girl. What was even more chilling was that talismans were stuck to the body. A hood-like covering had been placed over her head, and there were marks left over from where talismans had been pasted, all over her, and she had been buried in the earth just like that. The moment my grandfather saw it, he was certain. This is a technique to trap a soul. Someone had used that girl, binding her soul so it could not escape, and had created something out of that. That might have been the root of the sinister presence that had covered the village. My grandfather told the villagers, "I cannot handle this, I must call someone I know." He told them not to let the young people go outside until that person arrived. But the villagers couldn't simply move. In that remote mountain village in Yanbian, there was nowhere they could abandon their homes and run to immediately. Then one day, in broad daylight, someone screamed outside. Peering through a crack in the window, he saw the girl in the red dress walking while holding a young person's hand. The person being led away seemed strangely limp, as if just following along as told. A little behind them, another young person was crying and trying to stop them, calling out desperately. My brother was terrified, but he went outside. He said the thought, "I have to pull at least one of them back," pushed him forward. The moment he rushed up to the red dress, the girl vanished. Only the air remained, and the sensation of touching her fingertips was abruptly severed. The young person whose hand had been held lost consciousness on the spot. The younger sibling who had been crying nearby grabbed their older brother, and with trembling hands, led them into their house. The words the young man spoke after regaining consciousness were even more unsettling. "My younger sibling," said a woman in a red dress, was calling, so they went outside. "I tried to stop them, but I heard my younger sibling's voice calling big brother from behind me. When I turned around, the woman in a red dress was coming toward me. That day, the person my grandfather said he would bring arrived. The villagers called him a Taoist. The Taoist, the moment he stepped into the village, said this: 'There is a strange thing wandering in this village. It's like a flying beast.' He said it was the type of thing that happens when a grudge, unable to die properly and left crushed, gets wedged in the cracks of the mountain and turns into a monster. Though he didn't know who had created it. The Taoist said it was neither human nor beast. Like a massive fire, it is something that will not vanish until it burns everything up. The solution was simple and cruel. We have no choice but to summon it and capture it. There were things that needed to be prepared. A calf. And a sleeping child. They built an altar in a wide clearing halfway up the mountain. They laid straw mats on the ground, gave the child a little wine to put them to sleep, and covered them with a blanket. The calf was laid down with its limbs tied, and a cloth was placed over its eyes. The Taoist poured the red liquid he had brought into a vessel. He added a single strand of hair from the sleeping person into the vessel, and stirred it quietly. Then, he thinly sprinkled that liquid onto the ground, the straw mat, and the surrounding area. Finally, he laid out a rope. Creating a boundary in a circle, he intentionally left one side not completely closed. It was shaped to leave an exit, as if to say, if you are going to leave, leave through here. Until the sun set and the mountain sank completely into darkness. The Taoist didn't move. His grandfather stood firm beside him, and his older brother, trembling, couldn't take his eyes off the scene. As the night deepened, the wind changed. It wasn't a wind that blew naturally. It was a wind without a destination, like someone passing by and stirring the air as they went. The sensation of something brushing past his ears, swish, swish, came one after another. And the air in the room began to vibrate slightly. At first, he said it was like a faint tremor. But then, at one moment, it sounded like laughter. It was impossible, but it felt just like human breath escaping, a hoo-hoo sound. The Taoist while making gestures like tearing cloth and drawing lines, said in a low, hard voice, "You have come to the wrong place. Do you even know where you are?" Then, mixed voices came out of the sleeping person's mouth. A woman's voice, his grandfather's voice, a young man's voice. Layered. All at once. "I'm taking everyone with me. It hurts. I am not at fault." Different words clumped together into a single mass and spilled out in a rush. The Taoist's expression didn't change. "It is not just you. Something is rising. The master is rising." At that moment, the grandfather moved. As if it were a signal, he struck the knotted bundle hard. While liquid had certainly seeped into the vessel, the knotted side itself remained strangely dry. His grandfather wrapped the bundle back up in a furoshiki cloth, held it to his chest as if handling something he must never touch, and turned his back. The Taoist said, "You cannot go to the underworld, this is the end for you." They headed to a place on the mountain called the cleft where the qi leaks. The villagers called it a kind of devil's gate. If that cleft wasn't sealed, the thing would leak out again. They lit a fire, chanted non-stop, and finally buried that head in the cleft. The Taoist said to the end, "When all this is over, you will suffer here for eternity. You are not worth sending to the underworld. I will seal you so tightly that you can never leave." After that, no major incidents occurred in the village. However, there was something my brother added at the end. He said that the laughter he heard on the mountain that night later sounded like the moaning of a cow. It kept crying for a long time, as if someone were following him from deep within the mountain. My brother still wonders today. Was that girl in the red dress truly beautiful? Or was he just being shown something to make her look beautiful? And the thing that made my blood run cold the most was this. It had no purpose. It wanted nothing. It was just a mass of rage that couldn't be unraveled unless it beat everything to death. It was a grudge that had rotted for so long that it had lost its reason and its direction. Something that could only maintain its existence by destroying whatever it touched. In other words, what covered that village was not one ghost. It was a mass, formed by things that could not fade away, tangled together.